Hi everyone, thanks for joining me on my channel dedicated to finance, entrepreneurship, and data analytic. Today we're going to talk about data analytic and how to create a loan calculator using a Python script as well as some visualization. Before I start, I got a few things to ask you. If you like anything related to finance, entrepreneurship, and data analytic, please don't hesitate to subscribe. If you got any comments or questions, leave them in the comment section. And if you like the content of this video, don't hesitate to like. Let's start. Hi everyone, as I said, today we're going to talk about how to create a loan calculator as well as some visualization of a loan over years on Python. So writing a Python script. So first of all, I'll just open a Jupyter notebook and I'll create several number of lines just to make sure I've got enough space. And I'll rename the notebook. What I like to do as the first step is to import all the different libraries that I need. So I like to import pandas, NumPy, and then so I'll start. And because I want a dynamic calculator, I'm not just gonna put any number into a variable. I want it to be dynamic. So what I'll do is I'll just put loan amount here. And instead of putting a number like that, I'll just put input and write a question. So how much do you want to borrow? With a question mark and a space to allow the answer. If I do that, it asks me the question. So I'll put like 200,000. Nothing happens. The data will be stored in this variable. And if I look at the type, that will be string. And so you cannot make any calculation with a string. You need it to be an integer or a float. So basically a numerical data. So what I'll do right there, very simple, is I'll make sure that the data that I enter is converted to an integer. And if I do the same there, it's an integer. And I'll be able to calculate with that. So now, in order to get to calculate loan amounts and loan repayment over the years, I just need three factors. I need the interest rates, and last element that I need is the period. And in this case, because it's time, it's years, that would be an integer. So I want to borrow 200 at 5%, 15 years. And if I look at interest rates at 0.05, so it converted the 5 into a percentage, so that's perfect. And if I look at period, that's 15. So that's great. I got all the data that I need to calculate how much I'm going to have to repay. So I'll just create a new variable, the annual loan payments. And so let's just start with the first element of the financial calculation, which is 1 minus 1 plus the interest rates, power of minus the period. That's the first element here, divided by the interest rates. That's the second element. And the last element is just basically the loan amount divided by those. And if I check, I've got how much I'm going to have to repay over 15 years to pay down $200,000 at 5%. And that's including the interest and the principal. So that's perfect. I got a variable that will not change because that will not change over time. And that will help me moving forward for different calculation. So then I want to know, because I want to have a visual of how much I'm going to pay over the years, I'm just create a list where I'm going to store the balance of the remaining loan that I have to pay. So I'll just create an empty list as loan balance. And so for the year in, so the periods, so in the range of 1 to the period plus 1. So if year equal at 1, then basically I want the variable where it would be just the loan amount multiplied by 1 plus the interest rates minus the annual loan amount that we have right there. Right? So it would be 200,000. So for the first year, 200,000 multiplied by 1 plus the interest rates, so 5%. So that's $10,000. So it's basically 200 plus $10,000 minus the annual loan repayment, which is about $19,000 for the first year. And for the second year and onward, so there is no other conditions. So the balance will be the loan balance, so the previous data from earlier, multiplied by the same, so 1 plus the interest rates, minus the same, so the annual loan repayment, because those don't change. And so I want the loan balance here to be appended. So I want the variable to be added to the list. So like that. And that will be exactly the same for this one. If you look at loan balance, so it will be a list, and you'll have on the year one, the ending balance would be 190,000 and then 180 and so on. In order to calculate the beginning balance, I had to have this ending loan balance first. So let's create a begin loan balance list. Same principle, but in this case, so for year in range 1. And so if I look at the list here, it starts with 200 and then it goes down to 18,350, which will be the last year, the last beginning of the year. I want to create a data frame. So to create the data frame, I want to create a period because the index starts from 0. So it's not where I want to start. So I'll just create a list comparison where I for I, so year for year, basically in range 1 period plus 1. So exactly the same start as this one. I can just create a data frame. So the data will be first, I'll create a dictionary, right? So with those brackets, the curly brackets, I'll create the name, so the name of a column. I'll just put there the data that I want to enter. And now I'll just create the data frame, which will be a common practice, best practice. So DF data frame, PD data frame, and I'll just put data. And so now if I look at the DF, you got the period, the begin balance amount, the end balance amount, capital and interest. But I want to add a few columns here. The first column that I want to add is the interest that I have to pay. So I'll just short it there, right? I'll create a few more lines and I'll create a new column named interest, and that will be equal basically to df begin balance amount multiplied by interest rates. So it will look at each row there from this column and multiply it by the interest rates that we have in there. And that will apply to each row. If we look at the F again, then you have all the interest rates. So that's perfect. And so now I want to create a few more variables. So I want to know what would be the total sum of interest that I will pay over the years and the total amount due. So basically the beginning balance plus the total amount of interest. So total interest, which is equal to DF interest sum. If I look at that, so over 15 years, I will pay a total of $89,000. So that sounds good. And then I'll create another variable, which would be total amount due. So as I said, beginning balance amount plus the total of interest. So very simple. So it's the loan amount plus this variable. And that would be $200,089,000. Perfect. And so I'm almost there. What I want to do is I want to create a column to this data frame where I'll see the decrease of the total amount due minus the loan repayment, the annual loan repayment. So I'll create the same as before. So I'll create a list, an empty list named total. Let's check the list because now it's a list. So $289,000 up to the last year. So it would be the beginning of year 15, 19,268. So that's perfect. And now I just want to create a new column. So DF total equal at total. And now I can just verify that with that. And so now I've got beginning balance, end balance, capital and interest, perfect, interest, and the total. That's fantastic. So now what I can do is I want to visualize it. And so I'll do it in two ways. One will be a static ways, and the second one will be in a dynamic ways. So using the static ways, I will use Matplotlib and Seaborn. So first of all, I want to make sure that I got enough space to read it. So I'll use PLT figure fixed size, and I'll do 10, 10 on XY, 10 on X, and 10 on Y. And then I'll use Seaborn because I like the line plot. And I'll do X equal at period. So you can start with just the data, just as a best practice. So data will be from the data frame, right? So that's all the argument that you need to have in there. So you need the data, you need the X, and then you need the Y. And then the Y will be, in my case, I just want to see the total. You need to make sure that the name here is exactly the same as in the data frame. To year 15 here, where it would be $19,000. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to add a few more lines. I can create the lines like that, and here we go. Perfect. So you got the loan value over the years from 0 to 15. So basically, you've got the interest in green. You've got in orange the capital and interest, and in blue you've got the loan repayment. And in year 15, it will be exactly the same because what you need at the beginning of the period, you'll have to pay 18,350 plus the interest. So basically, this amount minus this amount. And just to conclude, I'll show you how to create a more dynamic graph. So instead of using Matplotlib and Seaborn, I will use Plotly Express. So, and I shorted it as PX in there. And that's really simple to use. So I'll use PX and I want line, and the argument that you need is the data frame. So let's, as a best practice, put your data frame straight away. X will be the period, and the Y, you can select more than one Y. So let's create total. Here you go. So you got the title here, the value, you can change that. And so it's basically you put your mouse on the line and you'll have how much is remaining. And you can zoom in, auto scale to go back to normal, and then you got how much interest you're gonna have to pay over the years. Obviously, it will decrease. Um, and here you go. You've got a calculator, a loan calculator, as well as the graph that goes with it to see how much you're gonna pay over the years. If you like this content, please don't hesitate to subscribe, leave a comment, and like the video. See you soon.